Recording in progress.
Howdy, everyone. This is Sharon for another Conscious Sharon moment. And so, for this Conscious Sharon moment, what I want to talk about is perception, interpretation, and reality. Oh my. And what I have come to realize, had discovered, aha moment in that, first of all, our perception is based on our life experience, our belief, and how we look at the world especially on a subconscious level, not just on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, meaning that half of the time we don't even know that includes me, that we're interpreting that our perception about something is based on that. We may think it's more on a conscious level, logical of how we see something, but again, those childhood experiences, I just say life experiences, really leave imprints and messages about something that, I hate to say it, that we don't even know, we don't even realize it. So we're operating in a sense based on the imprint that was left that we didn't even know that was left. Now, sometimes we do. Sometimes something can happen and we make it either a mental note, a conscious note saying, I would never be in this situation again the next time when, and so we acknowledge something about an experience that we don't want to either feel, most of the time it's feel, be in, or whatever it may be. And then our interpretation about something, or how we interpret something, interpretation and perception are very similar, but they're different in a sense. And I would probably say the perception is probably more of the subconscious piece of it, more so than it is conscious, even though I just said something. And the interpretation is definitely more of a conscious way that you are interpreting something in such a way. And then sometimes it can be someone on a subconscious level. I would say it could add to, I put it like that, it's more so add to. But I look at the interpretation of being more active. You're more involved in the meaning of something, how something felt, what something was said, something that was not said, something that was done, something that was not done. That is a little bit more active. And so even with that, that is still based on our perception, how we see the world. That is based on our experiences, especially those childhood experiences and life experiences. And the reason I say life experience is because sometimes they may not always get imprints from childhood, even though childhood are the ones that are really ingrained. But I've even noticed with myself, sometimes things get interwoven, based on experiences, especially if something was very intense, or it just had lots of emotion. And even though you would think, oh yeah, that will leave an imprint, but sometimes we don't know what that imprint is. And even when it comes to our interaction with others, because sometimes someone can be so stronghold in their belief, in their interaction, that it causes a reaction to someone else. And at the end of the day, we're all responsible for ourselves. But with those two, the interpretation and the perception, then we have what we call reality. Like, what is the real thing? And so, is the real thing really what I interpreted or my perception of something, or what someone else? It's somewhere in the middle. But one thing that I will really say, all about all of this. Now, there are times in which I've even experienced too that I may have a perception about something, and I realized that later that I interpreted it in a certain way, whether it was, I say, the best thing for me or not so good for me, whatever it may be, or that it was true or not true. And we all have been in those situations, as I said, where we made a judgment about someone, something, or whatever it may be, and it was like, oh, I'm sure glad I didn't say anything because that was sure off key. And I would say too, when that happens to you, sit down with yourself and kind of see what that was all about. Like, how did you judge something? Because again, I'm just discovering there's just so much stuff. And so in saying that too, this impacts your home life and your work life. And especially if you're a leader, if you're in a leadership position, and just anybody really, because it impacts your perception and how you may perceive someone, how you receive someone as well. And so it has everything to do with your interaction, with other people. So this is why self-care is really so important. And remember, self-care, one of the biggest themes when it comes to the definition that I have for self-care is that awareness piece of it. So this is where the sitting in silence, the deep rest, the movement and action comes into play, because they help with the self-awareness piece of it. And sometimes with the self-awareness, that means you need to get moving and doing something different, or to do something, to have some action, because it's not just about, oh, I got this self-awareness and this reflection, and introspection and things like that. All of that stuff is important, but we need to be able to put things in action to be different, and may need to sit in silence in order to pretty much process all of that and things like that. And one thing I will say too is that when it comes to perception and interpretation and reality, like I was saying before, it's like, even though we may have judgment about something, interpreted something in something ways, like, oh, I can't believe they did such. And like sometimes when we, allow it to pass, either one or two things happen. What the thought that we had isn't true at all, or it is true. But I will say that anytime that we have those, I'm not going to say anytime, I just say really go within yourself. And if it's very strong, definitely keep going deep within yourself. But also, it's okay to address it with the person. If there's something that's bothering you, or if you have a question about, an action or something like that, whatever that thing is, it's okay. Because that's the other reason why we're doing all of this self-care, all this deep work, so that we can be able to receive someone when they're coming to us. And so if I'm able to go to someone should be able to come to me. And only thing I can say is, we're human of how we react. Hopefully no one can be reacting anger, but to be able to receive all the spectrum of the emotions, because sometimes something can hit us in a certain way. Sometimes we can be a little defensive initially, but this is why we're doing the work, so that we can receive that, so we can see, oh, this is where this person is, this is how they're seeing that, and I can understand, oh yeah, I can definitely understand, see why or how somebody will react that way. And I hope that someone will give me the same grades in that. But pretty much the main thing regarding this conscious sharing moment, I just really want to point out, is that everything is not always what it appears to be, nothing of how we may think. And even if we are reacting in a certain way, be patient with yourself, give yourself grace, to really look within yourself, and to also to be able to try and look where the other person is. It's like, oh, I can understand why they reacting in a certain way. Because the other thing is, sometimes once we have the conversation, I'll say that's the main thing, is to open up the conversation. Because that is, to me, I really truly believe this is how we can grow. This is how we can glow. This is how we can, really move forward individually and as a community. The more we do it, and this comes again in the workspace, because how many times in the workspace have you misinterpreted something that a manager said, or a manager or supervisor or someone in management misinterpreted an action or something that the employee said, because no one communicates it. People make assumptions. This is where the perception and the interpretation kind of comes into play as well. People make assumptions about even an action. You can look at an action, but the action and even the words that someone say may not have the same meaning of what you meant, and so this is why it's so important for us to really have that self-awareness of self, so that we can continue to grow, and so that it can be less misunderstanding. But let's just say, hey, no one is going to think the same thing all the time, and there may be misunderstanding. And I was like, that's okay, because that's how we grow. I want to know how someone think of me and things like that. I'd say where it matters, I'll put it like that, because when it comes to the entire world, we really don't have any control on that. And in helping people to think, and they may be justified in thinking the way that they do, because I don't always get it right, myself. But again, the main thing is, when it comes to perception, when it comes to interpretation, and when it comes to reality, is to be able to sit with yourself and to be able to listen to others, but to have the conversation, because this is where misunderstanding really comes into play. It's like sometimes so much time has passed, or I thought that, or you said that, and it may not, I would just say, it just may not be what the person has said. Even sometimes, I know a lot of times we may, say, summarize an event or something like that, and that can even change the meaning of it. This thing is deep. So the more, whatever your practice is when it comes to self-care, and especially when it comes to being in a reflective mode, continue to do that, because the more that we do that, and especially listening, because I really enjoy, and I really like, as much as I like talking, I really enjoy listening to other people, because this is how I learn about myself. This is how I learn about the world. This is how I learn about them, and then make those adjustments to be better and do better. So again, open the door, to your mind, to your heart, to your spirit, really, in helping to expand your perception, and maybe even to repair, because again, we have some things within us a lot of times that we don't even realize, and we can be so, again, stronghold in protecting ourselves, while at the same time we can truly be hurting others, because we can't see, because we're holding on to certain perceptions and interpretation we may not even realize. So to be able to listen, is such a key. It's just such a key. So again, thank you for joining me for this conscious sharing moment. Remember to like, remember to share, and let me know what's your definition or your experience in, perception, interpretation, and reality. Oh my. So what's your, interpretation of that? What does it mean to you? And have there ever been, an experience that you had where something was, misconstrued? So again, thank you for joining this conscious sharing moment.